وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل وسلم وبارك عليه وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم. We continue to talk about something that is pillar of Al-Iman, which is Al-Iman bil-Qadr. To believe in the Qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fate or predestiny. From the book of Al-Furqan bayna awliya al-Rahman wa awliya al-Shaytan, criteria between the righteous people, the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, al-Rahman, and the people of the Shaytan. And it's very important for us to know that أغلى ما في الوجود هو الإيمان بالله تبارك وتعالى. The most valuable thing in this life is to believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, His Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. بل لا قيمة لهذه الحياة إلا الإيمان بالله عز وجل ورسوله وبالعمل الصالح. There is no value to this life whatsoever, without any exception, no value whatsoever to this life except by the belief in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and to do the righteous good deeds. Otherwise we have no other purpose in this life except to worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And the real hasra, the real regret and loss is when a person lives this life not for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but for the sake of one's desire, eating and drinking and sleeping, exactly like the animals do, without the remembrance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Although the animals, they remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the human being and bestowed His favors upon them, gave them al-aql, or intelligence, which makes the human being unique from the rest of the creation of Allah by this aql. And this is manat al-taklif, as the ulama they say, which is the criteria of being accountable for our actions, is this intelligence that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us, that make us different than the rest of the creation of Allah. And because of this aql, because of this ability to think, the human beings, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala honored the human being as the race, as the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So to elevate ourselves from the physical sense of this life and the desires of it, which is a necessity, everybody has to eat and drink and enjoy, there is nothing wrong with that. But to fulfill the purpose of this life by worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything in our life has to be for that sake, following the way of the Prophet alayhi salatu wasalam. And Shaykh al-Islam Taymiyyah rahimahullah, in this book, in this part of the book, he talks about those who use the qadr, those who would use the belief in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to fit their own desires. When they commit sins, when they continue to commit sins, and they are advised, right, to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to have shyness, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed His mercy on everyone, that we cannot even take a breath except by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that people need to be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They would seek the excuse of al-qadr. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, He will have guided me, right? And whenever it comes to the matter of the obedience to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then they will also use the same excuse, or to say there is nothing, or there is no knowledge wal-'iyadhu billah, of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the believers, they are opposite of this. They understand the purpose of their life. They see that everything in their life is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and as a result of that they need to work for what's coming ahead, which is the hereafter, and they would have their hearts attached to the hereafter. And once the heart is occupied with this, then we will be able to live our life accordingly. And every evil things that happens on earth or in the hereafter, the reason for it is the sins and the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر بما كسبت أيدي الناس ليذيقهم بعض الذي عملوا لعلهم يرجعون. That the fasad, the corruption, it becomes apparent on the face of earth because of what people earned, because of their own sins. For what reason? So that maybe they can come back and return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is witnessing the wisdom of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in anything that happens around us. It's basically part of the belief in the qadr. Whoever believes in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he is the happiest person on the face of earth. He's always between patience and contentment, between as-sabr wal-rida. He's between these two things, whether he is patient, seeking rewards from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or he is pleased with the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why? Because it's from the most merciful, the most wise subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why people, they get sometimes extremely sad or even having bad expectations of Allah if they don't see things in the right way. When people read the Quran, the way the Prophet ﷺ, we're living on the face of earth as a test. Nobody would live among us, Allahu A'lam, more than 100 years. Prophet ﷺ was sitting with the companions when he said, after 100 years from now, no one on the face of earth will be alive. Right? This is the reality of this life. Right? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best who would live how long. So the one that has any intellectual abilities, any intelligence, definitely he would work for what's coming ahead. And the matter is very, very close before we even know it. As he said, alayhi salatu wassalam, الجنة أقرب إلى أحدكم من شراك نعله والنار مثل ذلك. That the Jannah is closer to one of you than his shoes. And the hellfire is the same way. Because it's only death that separates the person from the everlasting, either joy or everlasting misery. So it is really a wise thing for a human being to think and to take the matter seriously and to fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and to be obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it would never bring any misery, it would bring the total opposite. All means of contentment and happiness and all kinds of good things as a result of being obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He says that أهل البغي والضلال, the people of transgression and deviation, you would find them taking the excuse بالقدر إذا أذنبوا واتبعوا أهواءهم. If they commit sins and follow their desires, you find them taking the excuse of al-qadr. وَيُضِيفُونَ الْحَسَنَاتِ إِلَىٰ أَنفُسِهِمْ. And whenever they do a good deed or something good, they refer it to themselves. They forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So in sins they remember. If somebody advises them, well, that's the qadr of Allah. What can we do? And that's what they say. And if they do something good, they don't say this is alhamdulillah from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, they have arrogance. So they refer it to themselves. We did this, and we did that, and we're so much great, and so on and so forth. إِذَا أَنْعَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ بِهِ. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that bestows everything on the human being. As some of the ulama, they said, أَنْتَ عِنْدَ الطَّاعَةِ قَدَرِي وَعِنْدَ الْمَعْصِيَةِ جَبْرِي. أَيُّ مَذْهَبٍ وَافَقَ هَوَاكَ تَمَذْهَبْتَ بِهِ. Which means, some of the ulama, they said, for those people, those who are transgressors and in state of forgetfulness, when they do the good deeds, they follow the madhab or the way of the Qadariyah, deviant sect. The Qadariyah, they believed that they create their own actions. Right? There is no qadar. They deny it altogether. So sometimes the actions of the people is like this. They do something good, they forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why to be opposite of that, as he would show what is then the way of the people of disbelief, of belief, the righteous people, what to do in them. It's very important that we always refer everything to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether matters of worship or any good thing that we do in this life. We need to be honest and truthful, otherwise we're not saying the full truth or we are lying. So if a person passed his exam, if a person earned money, if a person lived another day, right, healthy, he has wealth, he was able to wake up in the morning, right, he was able to sleep, he was able to eat and drink, no problem. He was able to go to the bathroom and relieve himself. If we count the favors of Allah, his eyes is still working, ears is still working, right? And he made the salah, alhamdulillah, paying the zakah. Anything that a person would do of goodness, he first has to refer it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Say, alhamdulillah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestowed his favor upon me when I woke up this morning. And that's why, when we follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ, what's the first thing that a Muslim would say when he wakes up? Alhamdulillah. الذي أحيانا بعد ما أماتنا وإليه النشور. Alhamdulillah, the one to be praised with all of his names and attributes, the one that gave me life after death. We don't realize this. This is by itself ayah from ayat Allah Azza wa Jal. A sign from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when the human being is all that, or he think that he's all that, and then you see this poor human being, once he cannot take it anymore and he falls asleep, helpless, right? He cannot control it, he cannot push it away from himself, right? And as we mentioned that example many times, because it's mentioned in the most virtuous ayah in the Quran, Ayatul Kursi, about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. He does not sleep, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Human beings, why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us to sleep? So that we humble ourselves. Not so that we can relax. People in Jannah, they don't sleep. They don't need to sleep. Right? So why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made this in us, that we sleep during our life, so that we humble ourselves. This is the wisdom behind it. So that we see ourselves as no power, no might whatsoever. If you are the strongest man on earth, right, you find yourself hopeless, helpless. If somebody wants to harm you when you're asleep, you can defend yourself, right? And this is a fact for all human beings. So when a person is alive after this minor death, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala called it death in the Quran, then he should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A person waking up and forgetful, right, about what happened, that Allah is the one that gave him this ability to wake up, right? And then something that, again, using our intelligence. Did you decide when you were sleeping, okay, I decide now to wake up, so then you woke up? It doesn't happen. You find yourself waking up. Yes, there might be alarms, this or that, but who is the one that is making you wake up? It's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The same thing when you go to sleep, you don't make that decision. I decided to sleep now, and then you sleep. It doesn't happen. You lay down, yes, you wait, and you wait, but in reality, who's the one that is causing you to sleep? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran. Allahu yatawaffa al-anfus. The ayah starts with Allah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala yatawaffa wafa, takes the soul. حين موتها والتي لم تمت في منامها. When it dies, and the one that doesn't die in its sleep. So the significance that the ayah starts with Allah, so that people are not forgetful. So that they remember that very well, that it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that is taking their soul when they're sleeping, and He's the one that He gives them the soul back, life back again, right, when they wake up. So when they're sleeping, when they're waking up, moving their hands, walking, thinking, whatever a human being do in every single second in our life, we should not refer it to anyone but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And again, as we said, if you want to give da'wah to others, you don't have to stop them from doing whatever they're doing and you give them lecture. No, just say the truth with your tongue. When they tell you how was your weekend, don't say it was great, I did this and I did that. Say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, right, helped me and I did this, He made me do this, right? And they look at you weird, what you're talking about. That's what the da'wah is, right? It starts this way. Explain to them. We do not do things on our own, we need the help from Allah, the one that created us. And most of the people, they believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They believe in the creator of the heavens and the earth. The problem is they're not grateful to Him. They don't worship Him alone, which is the job of the messengers of Allah. You don't talk to them about other things, just the matters of tawheed that the people are in need of. So some people, when it comes to when they do something good, they refer to themselves. Even matters of ibadah or worship. Well, I prayed, I gave zakah, I did that, and so on. Without being grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and saying it with one's tongue, and more importantly, feel it in their hearts. And whenever they, وَعِنْدَ الْمَعْصِيَةِ جَبْرِيٌّ, and when they commit a sin, like the Jabriya, deviant sect, the total opposite of these people. Those who, again, they lost their mind for some time and they start hallucinating and they start believing in hallucinations, saying that we are forced to do whatever we are doing, and the qadar is everybody's forced, right? You have no choice whatsoever. And this is someone definitely is insane to say that, right? Because it's not just against the deen, it's against any slight intelligence in any human being. You have a choice. I have a choice. I want to raise my hand. I raise my hand. I don't find myself forced to raise my hand, right? We make choices and decisions, but yes, we believe that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, whatever He wills, goes, and He's the creator of everything, human beings and their actions and so on. That's why the qadr is the secret of Allah, right? And the same people that would say this, right, in matters of sins, as we talked about it before also, they would never use it when harm afflict them. If they enter the homes and somebody's stealing the house, right? And they ask the thief, how dare you do this? The thief would say, well, that's the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I found myself doing this, how can you blame me? When this is the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they would say, then according to that, they don't contradict themselves. They'll say, sure, yes, please go ahead, continue, right? This is the qadr of Allah. For Him to give Him to the police is the qadr of Allah. The same thing, and we can go on and on with this, right? Someone with his wife, he found someone with qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, what can you do? Leave him alone, and things like that. So a person has to, these people are insane. So, but why the contradiction happens when someone commits a sin, he would take the excuse of the qadar. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us the ability to think and to make decisions and receive the consequences of our decisions, but at the same time, we depend and rely with our hearts on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that everything is by the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And if something happened, yes, that was supposed to happen no matter what you do. So if it's a bad thing, you repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whatever madhab, whatever way they like, based on their desires, they would follow that. Sometimes they follow the Qadariyya, sometimes they follow the Jabriyya, according to what works with them, right? But then, what is the way of the righteous people? وَأَمَّا أَهْلَ الْهُدَى وَالرَّشَدِ, the people of guidance and goodness, إِذَا فَعَلُوا حَسَنًا, when they do any good deed, شَهِدُوا أَنْعَامَ اللَّهِ عَلَيْهِمْ بِهَا, they witness the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon them by this hasana, even if it's something so small. وَأَنَّهُ هُوَ الَّذِي أَنْعَمَ عَلَيْهِمْ وَجَعَلَهُم مُسْلِمِينَ, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one that bestowed His favor upon them, and He made them Muslimin, made them Muslims, submitted themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَجَعَلَهُمْ يُقِيمُونَ الصَّلَاةِ, and He made them establish the salah. وَأَلْهَمَهُمُ التَّقْوَى, and guided them to have the taqwa and the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَأَنَّهُ لَا حَوْلَ وَلَا قُوَّةَ إِلَّا بِهِ, and there is no might and no power, no ability to move from one place to the other, to change from one state to the other, except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And because of that, if a person is sincere, want to be guided, and he thinks it's very difficult for him, he has so much sin, so much fitan, so much temptations, and what can we do in these times of fitan, and the environment is very strong and so on, if that person sincerely, truthfully, turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the same way that he would turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when he feels hopeless, he has no means of help whatsoever, except if it comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If he turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, as Shaykh himself, he said that also about the example of someone in the middle of the ocean hanging to a piece of wood, right? He won't be talking to the ships and the helicopters, come and help me, right? He will be calling Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. And how much necessity in his heart that is. If a person has the same attitude, if he really wants to be guided and wants to be on the Salat al-Mustaqim, like all of us, we would say that. See, we definitely want to be righteous Muslims and so on. If he sincerely turns to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with this attitude, with dua, sincere, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will help him. Truthfulness meaning that he will take the needs. And he seeks the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not to think that you can do it on your own. Once you start thinking that you have the will and the power to be righteous and so on, and you forget about the favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then the person is ruined this way. But taking the means, yes, with the heart depends on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, turning to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and that's the most effective tool or mean to leave the sins, is to make sincere dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the beautiful dua of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, Allahumma habbib ilayya al-iman wa zaynu fi qalbi wa karrih ilayya al-kufra wa fusuq wa isyan. Allah, make me love al-iman and adore it in my heart, and make me hate kufr and fusuq, disobedience, and isyan, sins, and so on. This is the way of the people of guidance. They see that this is a favor from Allah. So every time a person sees himself, made a salah, made dua, whatever acts of worship, stayed away from a sin, he should be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that one ibadah needs another gratefulness, in which he would make another ibadah, and continuing to be in state of shukr and gratefulness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala from one ibadah to the other, to the last moment of one's life. And la hawla la quwwata illa billah, there is no might and power. We see that in our physical life. We're born, no power, no might, no decisions to be made for us to live on the face of earth. And we go into the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, left and right, and this and that, and you look back on things that happen in your life, no might, no power whatsoever. And at the end also, we will die without any ability to push that away from ourselves. And everybody shall return to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So why then the arrogance when it comes to being obedient and steadfast on the deen of Islam, when the matter is so easy? Follow the way of the Prophet ﷺ. Never think that you know better for yourself. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. He knows best. Doesn't He know the creation? So we should put our trust in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and have good expectations of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So He says, فَزَالَ عَنْهُمْ بِشُهُودِ الْقَدَرِ الْعُجْبُ وَالْمَنُّ وَالْأَذَى. So as a result of believing in the qadar, right, they would purify themselves from liking themselves so much, which brings arrogance and al-man, to keep on remembering and mentioning how great they are. Right? When you give someone a charity, which is one of the means to ruin your reward when you give charity, is that after you give the charity, you remind that person of your favors upon him. Doesn't have to be right away, but it can happen after 50 years. You see that person and he said something bad to you, or did something bad to you, and you tell him, how dare you do this to me, when I'm the one that did this and this and this to you. You ruined your reward. All of what you did is cancelled. That means you didn't do it for the sake of Allah. And this is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned in the Quran. Do not ruin your sadaqat, your charity, by man wa adha, by reminding the people of your favors upon them, and by hurting them, right? So as a way to purify ourselves from this, is to always think that this is from the favor of Allah. The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and this was mentioned also from Aisha radiallahu anha, they used to be more happier than the one that comes and asks for charity. The one that gives used to be more happier than the one that takes. Why? Because the one that is taking, right, he opened the gate for good deeds for them, right? So they would thank him, right? Not to encourage this, because it's not a good thing. If a person asks when he is in no need, he will come in the day of judgment with one shoulder higher than the other, a source of, or a mean of humiliation. So a person should not ask if he doesn't have the need for such a thing. But those who would give, they used to be more happy. Why? Because they're basically, as we said, one of the originations of Islam, he put it in a very beautiful way. You have two homes, right? One here, one in another town. If you send money to the other home to be built, or to finish it, or to renovate it, you're not wasting your money. You're just building your other home. Nobody will ever say that you're wasting. The same thing, when you give something for the sake of Allah, you're building it there, in the best place, the everlasting place. So this is how they used to be, as a result, as a benefit of believing in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the last thing, so that I don't keep you long, it's been a long night and heavy food, so probably all the blood is almost there. وَإِذَا فَعَلُوا سَيِّئَةً اسْتَغْفَرُوا اللَّهَ وَتَابُوا إِلَيْهِ مِنْهَا. So this, when it comes to the good deed, they don't talk about themselves, they refer it to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But we have to be careful. Sometimes a person might refer something to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but his heart is full of also the arrogance and the liking and the ujb and so on. By saying that to people too much, talking about his good deeds. We should hide our good deeds as they used to hide their good deeds, that the same way that they would hide their sins. Right? But some things you cannot hide whatsoever. Salatul Jama'ah in the masjid. Shaitan comes and whispers to someone, you pray Jama'ah in the masjid, this is showing off. Pray at home is better for you, more khushu'. You feel more khushu', more humbleness when you pray at home. This is wrong, because it's against the way the Prophet ﷺ. So a person work on himself and strive with himself to have sincerity, and to do the things that the Prophet ﷺ did, to pray in Jama'ah, to do the things that's supposed to be done, and working on oneself to be sincere. But the things that can be hidden, then definitely this is a person should do that and seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So on the other hand, if they do a bad deed, وَإِذَا فَعَلُوا سَيِّئَةً, it shows that people of goodness and righteousness, they won't be perfectly away from sins. They would fall into sins. This is how human beings are. If they fall into a sin, استغفروا الله وتابوا إليه منه. They would ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for forgiveness immediately, and they would repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And they would never say, well, that's the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that whatever He will happen subhanahu wa ta'ala. Of course, that's whatever Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will happen. And since it happened, even the sin, the person should believe that this was in the qadr of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but they don't use it as an excuse. They will repent to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala immediately and turn to Him alone. And that's why, again, Sayyidul Istighfar, the best of all means and ways to ask Allah for forgiveness, which it is virtuous and recommended for us to say it in the morning and in the evening, as the Prophet ﷺ used to say. You will find these meanings in it. The total, the perfect humbleness to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta. Oh Allah, you are my Rabb, the owner, the creator, the sustainer, the one that life and death is in his hands. Allahumma anta rabbi la ilaha illa anta. There is no one worthy of worship except you. Khalaqtani wa ana abduk. You created me, and I am your slave. See how much the person is giving this introduction before he asks for forgiveness. Humbleness. You created me, and I'm your slave. وَأَنَا عَلَىٰ عَهْدِكَ وَوَعْدِكَ مَا اسْتَطَعْتُ. I'm on your covenant and your promise to the best of my ability. أَعُوذُ بِكَ مِنْ شَرِّ مَا صَنَعْتُ. I seek refuge in you from the evil of what I did. وأبوء بذنبي وأعوذ بك من شر ما صنعت أبوء لك بنعمتك علي وأبوء بذنبي. And I acknowledge the favors upon me and I acknowledge my sin. فاغفر لي فإنه لا يغفر الذنوب إلا أنت. Forgive me because no one would forgive my sins except you. This is the best way to make istighfar, as the Prophet ﷺ called it Sayyidul Istighfar. Why? Because of this attitude that the person does not see in himself any might or any power or anything. It's all by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the Prophet ﷺ said, من قالها إذا أصبح موقنا بها فمات من ليلته دخل الجنة. Whoever says it in the morning, موقنا بها, with certainty, and he dies that day, he will enter Jannah. And if it's said every day and every night, right, every day, one day a person will die. So someone that says it every day, by the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will guide him not to forget it, so that in the day that he dies, this would be one of the means for him to enter the Jannah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but sincerely, truthfully, not just lip service, as many of the situation of dhikr is. No, this is something that comes from the heart, and the tongue speaks it out, then this is how our life will change. So we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among those who are righteous, and to make us among those who love al-Iman and to adorn it in our hearts, and to make us hate al-Kufr, disbelief and sins and forgetfulness, and to be away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.